So in my last video, there was a significant amount of requests from people in my comment sections, one in particular, Frank, who asked me to make a video about LARPing versus role-playing. Several others also asked me to define that or discuss it further, so this is what this video is going to cover. Fair warning, these are my opinions, these are my definitions. I understand, before you get ahead of yourselves, I understand that there is no such thing as LARPing in an online video game because it's, by definition, live-action roleplay. I get it. But more along the lines, I'm using this as a pejorative to insult people who do things very stupidly, or what I perceive to be stupid, right? So, here we go. We're going to get into this right now. This is how I define LARPing. So right off the bat, the best way to get this definition out there in a broad sense is to quote a user from a forum I frequent called the RPG Codex. This user went on to say years ago, and defined it as such in the following way. LARPing is the word we use to criticize Oblivion fanboys who believe they could imagine whole new games in their heads. Meaning those who argued that you didn't need consequences for your choices, or the actual implementation of in-game scenarios. As long as the sandbox has enough props for them to pretend that the game of their dreams actually existed. Basically, people who treated everything like a solo Second Life chat room where emoting is the real gameplay. The problem was never that people have quirky habits, much less that they make their own choices in how to behave towards actual game mechanics, which, by the way, is the opposite of LARPing. But rather, that there were people who proposed cloud cuckoo landing as a perfect substitution of actual gameplay. That's when LARPing becomes derogatory. Yada, yada, yada. He goes on to describe some shit. So, how does that translate to Star Citizen? Well, there's a few ways. You're sitting around Everett Harbor. You're picking up trash and putting it in the trash can. There is no official Everett Harbor Space Janitor gameplay loop. And you're doing so to either get Reddit updates and farm karma, or you're doing it just to LARP that you really want to be a space janitor. Another example of that would be people who insist on having toilets and showers and things like that in ships. To do what? There's no shitting and pissing mechanics in Star Citizen. Yet people endlessly request and demand these features on ships. To want those and to care about those is simply LARPing. Another way I would describe LARPing, or what I consider it to be, is if you're playing Star Citizen and you're taking people on tours. Same thing. No mechanic, no nothing. There's nothing to really see in the fucking universe. You take people on tours. If you're a tourist, you're a LARPer. You're touring people around, you're LARPing. That's another one. In relation to my last video and how I insult orgs such as Medrunner and other shitters, is that their LARPing is done on an out-of-game and in-game level, right? You have a ton of red tape and bureaucracy, ridiculous requirements, wear your uniform during certain hours. You must do this. If you're out of uniform, you're yelled at or you're punished or you have to do all this shit. That, to me, is another level of LARPing. There's no gameplay mechanical reason for doing this, but you're bogging your members down with endless amounts of requirements and bureaucracy simply for the sake of doing it in the absence of real activity in the game. There's another way I define LARPing. An additional one is, and I'm a huge fan of most ships in the game, and I personally like the aesthetics of Drake ships, but if you're a pirate and you want to be a pirate and you exclusively fly Drake ships, well, they suck, okay? They're garbage. They're absolute shit, all right? They shouldn't be, but they are. And you want to go PvP in Drake ships, and you're going to get your engine shut off, you're going to spin around like a dumb fuck, and you're going to die. But hey, you really want to be a pirate. The game doesn't acknowledge that you're flying Drake ships. Drake doesn't give you a discount or special mission for using Drake ships. But you're using Drake ships because you're a pirate, and in your head, that's the pirate manufacturer, and that's what you're going to fly around in. And those are all ways that I define LARPing. To sum it up, it's by playing in a way the game does not acknowledge, or by purposely hindering yourself in a way for some made-up bullshit in your head by using inferior equipment or ships. That, to me, is LARPing. Now, LARPing comes with a danger, and it actually comes with a gameplay danger. Now, hear me out on this, all right? You pretending that your actions have consequences or merit within the game, or that the game supports them, does not push or drive CIG to create gameplay loops, because you're essentially admitting that you don't need these gameplay loops because they exist but only in your head. CIG doesn't have to introduce a touring perfection, whether it be for NPCs or players, because in your head, you're already doing the touring. CIG doesn't need to fix Drake ships, because in your head, they're meant to be bad, and pirates are bad, and that's just how it is. These, to me, are the dangerous aspects of LARPing, and why I hate it in the game. Now, on the opposite end of LARPing, we have role-playing and thematics, and these two things I think are great, and I feel that they enhance the game. And believe it or not, they are different from LARPing. Role-playing is something that I define very similar to the true definition of you doing something within character. So if your character is, say, I don't know, a Marine in some organization that has a Marine contingent, and, you know, you're Corporal Joe Snuffy, and you're showing up, and you're in character, and your character responds to people in character, that is role-playing. It's not LARPing, that's role-playing. Or if you make decisions, if the game supports this, and you make decisions that your character would make, that's also role-playing. The key here is acting as your character in the universe would act, not you, the player. That, to me, is role-playing. That is pretty much a definition of role-playing, and I feel like that enhances the game. I think there's nothing wrong with that. Thematics is more of what I'm big on. I like a theme. Themes for orgs are way better. And before people say it, well, what about, you know, Medrunner and their theme is a medic org? Yeah, but there's other videos that cover why they're clowns, okay? But there's nothing inherently wrong with theming yourself as a medical organization, even though the gameplay loop for it is very weak right now, as it is for most things. But a theme is great. You have a lot of orgs that are thematic. You have pirate orgs that go out there and truly try to be businessmen. They ransom, they negotiate, or outright destroy others and take their cargo. You have orgs that are based around mining, and they go out and they do mining, and they bring stuff in. Or even salvage. These are all themes that the game acknowledges and supports. And that's the key difference. And that's why it's not LARPing. The game supports that behavior. So, that is my favorite thing. Absolutely, bar none. I love thematics. From back in Planetside 1 to now, I've been a big fan of themes for organizations, clans, guilds, outfits, communities, whatever you want to call them. And the Star Citizen is the perfect environment for that. Hell, our org has a theme. It's, you know, heavy armored infantry with heavy fighters. That's a theme. It might be weak to some people, but it's there. I'm just waiting for the game to have more fleshed out gameplay loops for me to really settle in on what I want to do. But I'm not going to pretend that the game has things for us now. I'm not going to go out there and pretend. So, that's my stance on that. So I've had to sum it up. Roleplay and thematics, absolutely great. Stay with it. LARPing, bad. Don't do that. Don't be a LARPer. Be a role player. Be a thematic role player. Be Corporal Joe Snuffy. Be out there. What I would take away from all of this, if I had to sum everything up and put a closing on this video, is, first of all, my opinions, they're extreme. They're my own. I don't expect anybody to fully believe in them or support them. But that's why I put them out there. Other bits of content coming out. If people really want me to produce content, I will happily go forward and do this more. I'll work with WARHAT. I'll work with other people who do my editing who have far more talent than I have. And I'll put some effort into it because I've got a lot to say. And a lot of it's going to be based on gameplay development, gameplay mechanics. Believe it or not, one of the videos I planned on doing, I'm actually kind of concerned with the amount of events in Star Citizen. I'm concerned with the precedent that's being set by having so many events in Star Citizen, such as SPKs, you know, or upcoming Ghost Hollow, or the current Jump Town, Xenothreat, Siege of Orison, whether they're organic events or scripted. Got a lot of concerns about that. I think they're an anathema to a sandbox. And I'm going to do a bigger video on that. But this one was requested because I think that my last one, and keep in mind, I don't script any of these. So maybe sometimes it sounds like I'm rambling, but there is no scripting. I don't like scripting. No, not for me. So one of the more requested things was me defining what I meant about the LARPing, the role-playing, and the thematics. So here it is. So to sum it up, I'm going to wrap it up here, okay? LARPing, bad. Don't LARP. Roleplay, good. Thematics, better. My opinions, not for everybody. If you want to LARP, roleplay, and play thematically, do all the above or one or the other, if it makes you happy and it's what you want to do, go ahead and do it. Just don't be upset when people like me make fun of you for one of those. Enjoy yourselves.